Hello everyone. Today's video is about how to speak English with real confidence and fluency. We're not talking about grammar rules or perfect accents, but about the real reason many people feel stuck: fear, hesitation, and self-doubt. You'll learn how to break those barriers, build daily speaking habits, and find your natural voice in English. This is about progress, not perfection, about speaking clearly, naturally, and confidently in real life. I speak to you in a quiet, honest way about one thing that stops so many of us: the feeling of being stuck. I do not tell the story of one person. I do not describe a single life. I describe a reality that many young people face when they try to speak English with confidence. I write as someone who has watched the pattern again and again, as someone who points out the truth and the path forward. This is not a how-to list with bullet points. This is a long, steady explanation that moves from the place of being stuck to the place of speaking freely and clearly. I use simple words so that the ideas stay with you. I want this to hold a listener's attention and build memory, like a map you can return to again and again. I begin at the place where the voice in your head becomes the loudest enemy. When I say I feel stuck, I mean the voice that says, "What if I make a mistake?" Or "What if people laugh?" Or "My accent is wrong." That voice sits heavy on the chest and narrows the world to a single point: fear. Fear makes the mouth small. Fear makes the words slow. In that smallness, everything feels safer. Staying silent feels like safety, but silence builds walls. The truth is that the road to fluent, confident English runs straight through those walls. I will explain why those walls exist and how I move through them in clear, practical language. First, I name the main reasons people feel frozen. I do this not to lecture, but to remove magic from the problem. When something is a mystery, it looks larger. When I see a problem clearly, its size shrinks. One big reason for the stuck feeling is a search for perfection. I notice how many young people expect perfect grammar, perfect pronunciation, perfect vocabulary. Perfection is a mirage. When I chase a mirage, I stop moving. Another reason is comparison. I see learners compare themselves to others who already speak well. Comparison steals confidence. A third reason is lack of practice in real conditions. People may practice reading and tests, but they do not practice speaking to live humans. Speaking to a real person is different from filling blank spaces on a page. Finally, there is fear of judgment and the memory of past embarrassment. A single negative moment can freeze someone for months or years. When I say all this plainly, the fear loses its throne. A problem named is a problem that can be solved. I explain the next idea gently. Confidence is skill, not luck. Some people act like confident speakers were born that way. I do not believe in magic births. I believe in practice that is honest, steady, and focused. When I speak of practice, I do not mean repeating the same sentence until it becomes a set of teeth marks. I mean practice that trains the mind and the mouth together. I mean practice that teaches the heart not to run when the brain stumbles. The body learns to speak by repeating real conversation, not just grammar drills. I want you to see confidence as a muscle. A muscle grows when it is used. It grows through small, repeated efforts. I urge you to treat your voice like that muscle. It will ache sometimes. That ache is the sign of change. I place great importance on the idea of small daily actions. Big goals feel far away, and that makes people freeze. I speak about the power of a single 5-minute habit. I explain how 5 minutes of speaking every day for a month stitches together into something you can notice. I do not promise quick miracles. I promise steady change. When I make the case for daily action, I describe what those moments look like. I imagine a person standing in front of a mirror, or speaking into a phone, or reading aloud a short paragraph and recording it. I do not tell someone to suddenly speak for an hour to strangers. I show the path of tiny, brave steps. Each small step chips away at the fear. I say this because change feels possible when it is small. I also discuss attention and memory. The ear hears a phrase, the mind must hold it. When I practice speaking, I make memory work for me. I teach myself small phrases, not single words. Phrases become tools. I show how learning phrases is better than learning a long list of isolated words. Phrases give structure. They build patterns that feel natural in conversation. I speak about collocations, words that go naturally together, and how using them saves time. Fluency is not only about words, it's about rhythm and flow. When I learn common phrases, I learn the rhythm of English. Rhythm helps the mouth move faster and the brain feel less burdened. Pronunciation is often a mountain in the minds of learners. I do not tell you to erase your voice. I tell you to shape it. Pronunciation is not about sounding like someone else. It is about making sounds clear enough to be understood. I explain the idea of clarity. I ask that you notice which sounds cause misunderstanding and practice those. Practice can be playful. Tongue twisters are not just for children. They are a way to stretch the mouth. Repeating short sentences that match real speech patterns builds muscle memory. Shadowing, listening to a short sentence and then repeating it immediately, matching speed and tone, can teach the body the music of English. I explain shadowing in simple language and stress that it is patient work. I also say that an accent is a badge of identity, not a crime. The goal is to be understood and to express yourself well. Next, I address grammar in a calm way. Grammar often becomes an enemy when people expect perfection. I explain grammar as a map, not a prison. A map helps you find the way. I advise that you learn grammar in the context of use, not by endless memorization. When I say this, I imagine learning the way you learned your first language, through meaning, not through rules. I speak about common patterns that appear in everyday speech and encourage learning them through example sentences. This approach makes grammar feel helpful. It makes speaking less about what is allowed and more about what feels natural. I must also speak of listening. Listening is the foundation of speaking. I explain that fluent speakers are often excellent listeners first. When I listen well, I see patterns, predict words, and feel prepared to answer. I encourage active listening, not passive background sound, but focused attention on speech patterns, choices of words, and intonation. I say that exposure matters. Regularly hearing English on the radio, in short videos, or in conversation rewires the brain to anticipate the language. Repetition of useful phrases in context helps memory. I also argue that variety helps. Different accents, different speeds, different styles of speaking. The more varied the input, the more flexible my speaking becomes. I talk about conversation as a shared game. Conversation is not a test with one right answer. It is an exchange. When I reframe conversation as play rather than examination, my body relaxes. I explain that questions are a gift because they allow me to prepare a response. Silence is not a failure. It is a place where the other person may be thinking too. I urge a learner to accept pauses, to use simple filler phrases to buy time, and to return to the main thought without fear. I teach the value of asking clarifying questions when I do not understand. A moment of confusion becomes a chance to connect, not a reason to stop trying. Fear of judgment is a deep current that I must name softly. I acknowledge it without drama. I remind the listener that most people do not listen to criticize. They listen to connect. Even when someone corrects my English, I can treat correction as helpful data, not as a verdict. I explain strategies to handle anxiety. Breathe slowly before speaking. Use short sentences. Smile and focus on the message rather than on the mechanics of language. I emphasize self-compassion. I tell you to treat mistakes as experiments. Experiments that do not produce the result are still useful because they teach me what to try next. Practice with others is essential. I explain that speaking alone is valuable, but speaking with another person creates real pressure and real feedback. Language exchanges, conversation partners, tutors, or friends become mirrors. I recommend practicing with people who are patient and who want to help. I say that speaking with other learners can be powerful because everyone supports each other's mistakes and learns together. I also explain the value of speaking with native speakers to learn idiom and speed. I do not glorify native speakers as the ultimate owners of language. I present them as one source among many. The key is regular, real conversation. I speak honestly about technology. I do not make it a cure-all, but technology is a tool I use. Recording myself on my phone, listening back, and noting where the flow breaks is useful and surprisingly kind. Speech recognition tools give immediate feedback on clarity. Watching short clips and copying their rhythm teaches intonation and stress. Apps that use spaced repetition remind me of useful vocabulary over time. Yet, technology can also create a false sense of progress if I only use it in small, comfortable ways. The most important thing is to bring that practice into the messy world. Real people, real noise, real interruptions. I explain how to set goals that move me forward. Big goals make me dream, but small goals make me act. I teach the idea of measurable, reachable targets. Speak 2 minutes more in a conversation next week than this week, or record a 3-minute monologue about something you love. The point is not complexity, but continuity. I favor a steady tempo. I explain that keeping a record of small wins, like a private log of dates when you spoke, how long, and what felt better, is a compass for progress. It takes the fog out of the future and gives proof that things change with time. I examine the role of emotion. Language is tied to feelings. When I speak about a topic that matters to me, my words flow more easily. I encourage choosing subjects that light a fire inside. Speak about music you love, your favorite food, the place you miss. Emotions make language real and memorable. I also advise that practicing emotionally charged speech in small, safe settings prepares the body to retrieve words when under pressure. Storytelling is powerful because it folds emotion and structure together. If you can tell a short story in English about something that matters, your fluency will grow quickly. I'll speak about the body. Speaking is not only a mental act, it is physical. Posture, breath, eye contact, and facial expression shape the voice. I describe simple breathing that supports speech, a slow breath in, a steady release while speaking. When I teach myself to breathe, my voice steadies, my pace slows to a natural tempo, and my words come smoother. I say that body language and gestures are part of communication. When I use my hands gently, I naturally find the words. The body signals to the brain that speaking is safe and normal. I remind the reader that setbacks are normal. Some days I lose words, stumble, or feel embarrassed. Those moments are part of the process. I recommend creating a plan for recovery when a conversation goes poorly. Take a small break, reflect, and practice the phrase or structure that failed until it feels comfortable. Recovery is itself a skill. It trains resilience, which is the partner of confidence. I also teach the value of curious observation. Instead of judging every mistake harshly, I learn to be curious about why a word slipped. Was it the grammar? The stress? The missing phrase? Curiosity turns shame into data. I encourage keeping a small notebook where I write the phrases that surprised me in conversation. New words I heard, a way people introduced ideas, a sentence that caught my ear. That notebook becomes treasure. It becomes the raw material for future practice. I emphasize learning to think in English. Thinking in your native language and translating slows you down. I do not claim it is easy. It takes repeated exposure and practice. I suggest small steps. Name things around you in English. Form short thoughts in English during daily routines. Narrate a simple action in English as you do it. Over time, the mind moves from translating to directly forming English thoughts. This shift speeds speaking and reduces hesitation. I address the habit of perfection again with a gospel of mistakes. I propose an experiment. Speak freely with the explicit rule that sentences do not have to be perfect. Record the conversation. Listen. Notice how understandable you were despite mistakes. Most of the time, meaning rose through hesitation and error. The experiment shows that communication is possible without perfection. That knowledge frees people to try again. I bring in the idea of preparation without scripting. Scripting every line kills spontaneity. But preparing templates for common situations, introducing yourself, asking for help, ordering food, gives a safety net. I explain how to rehearse these templates until they feel natural, and then practice changing small elements inside them to create variety. This method makes real conversation easier because the basic scaffolding is strong. I mention public speaking as a training ground. Speaking in front of a small group is a fast way to build confidence. I describe how even short, informal presentations build muscles of eye contact, pacing, and projecting. I say that vulnerability in front of a friendly audience teaches the brain that the world will not end if a sentence slips. Those experiences generalize to everyday talk. I encourage creative play, language games, improvisation, role play with friends. And storytelling rounds are not childish. They are laboratories. In play, I risk and experiment with new words without the pressure of correctness. Play reduces the fear of judgment and fires the imagination. It is here that I often find my voice changing in small, delightful ways. I close with the truth about time. Fluency is not a switch. It is the slow shaping of habit. I speak to a young person and tell them it will take repeated care, yet progress can be fast if they practice in the right way. Practice that includes listening, speaking, feedback, emotional connection, and steady goals moves the needle. I promise not a miracle, but a process that respects the way the mind learns language. I leave the final thought simple. Confidence grows when the voice is used. Each time I speak and survive, the voice learns that speaking is safe. Each time I choose to try again, the path becomes clearer. I ask the reader to imagine a future in which speaking English is not a test, but a tool. One that opens rooms, builds friendships, and allows the heart to move freely. I invite them to begin with a single, small act of speech today, and to repeat that act tomorrow. Over time, those small acts become the speech I want. That is the quiet power I offer, a steady stream of small, brave choices that shape a new, confident voice.